and welcome. My name is Emily and I am the owner and artist at Weathered Hearts Designs, and I am going to be working some more on this jewelry armoire for my client. So I have my paint finish, the base of my paint finish on here, which is kind of like a gradient ombre of several different colors. I will go over those shortly, but I have two thin coats down. It's been cleaned, painted in 2 thin coats of a chalk finish paint, and then I am going to be applying the IOD Paint Inlay to the sides and possibly slightly cascading onto the front. Now, they're going to be mainly covered up. So this is going to be a layer in between layers where it is peeking through, and it kind of looks like a misty morning or like a foggy morning, and you see like flowers in the distance. That's what I'm going for, because I'm going to hand paint a bunch of florals on here. My dog, I apologize. I'm going to be hand painting a bunch of florals on here. So, Layla, no. Sorry. She usually is not the barker. I put the barker away. But apparently she feels the need to be watchdog now. So, okay. Let me open this first. Make sure that this one also doesn't have the issue, because if so, this is gonna have to go back as well. Let's see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so this one does not have the problem. I bought 2 of these paint inlays locally, and I'm really, really frustrated because this is not the first time. Now, to be fair, this is not the same small shop that I have experienced something like this with. So this is my first time having this experience at this shop, but I bought 2 paint inlays. I have had my eye on this one for a very long time. It is the Chateau paint inlay. These are by Iron Orchid Designs, and I saw that they had it. I got super excited. I purchased it, and I opened it because I was thinking of using it again for like the shadowing, the in-between layers on this piece. And what I noticed was right there. You see that? Not only 1, but 2 sheets here have already been used in this, what I paid brand new for. So that is super frustrating. So I have the receipt, and I'm going to be taking that back because I'm not paying full price for a design that doesn't have all of the sheets with it. So they used, let's see, which one was this? I think, oh, no. Oh yeah, there's more gone. Oh my gosh, 3 sheets? Okay, hold on. Let me see how many sheets total are missing. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4. That one's also has most of it gone. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sheets in here that have the finish, like the full design. The rest is missing like a big main area of this paint inlay. So half of it has been used. So that's going to be going back. Unfortunately, I am not going to be using some of the greenery on the sides. I can layer it in later if they have another one of these, but I will be opening it there and making sure that it is in fact brand new, because I don't like that. I do not like that. So we're going to be using the lattice rose one. This one is one of my absolute favorite, it probably actually is my absolute favorite paint inlay that I have used. I've used several different designs now, but this one I just love, particularly the main rose design. It is very elegant, it's very classic, feels vintage but cozy. So that one is my favorite, and then I also love this sheet as well. It has like the, almost like a tile work wallpaper-ish pattern with the little roses in between. So I used this paint inlay on my own sewing cabinet that I did here in my own home. I ended up keeping it because I loved it so much, and I had to go and buy another one of these because I've already used almost all of that paint inlay minus the red design down here, because I don't really typically use like a lot of reds when I'm painting and creating, so I haven't had a use for those two sheets yet, but the other sheets in here I've basically used. So it comes with 8 of these designs, 8 sheets that are, what are they, 12 by 16. And what these are, they are not a transfer, so you're not rubbing them onto the piece. It's not a decoupage paper, so you're not like pasting this on. It is a gridded on the back, so you can get it lined up and get it cut however you need it in straight lines. But it is actual paint that is on the sheet here. And so you'll see what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wet it, and then I'm gonna apply either a paint, which I don't wanna apply a paint because I already have my blended finish going. So I'm gonna apply a clear coat, and I'm going to lay it into the wet clear coat, rub it in and let that dry, and then peel it back, and it's going to leave this hand painted looking design on the piece. So it's a really awesome product because you get that true hand painted feel that you cannot get with a transfer. You cannot get it with a decoupage paper. There's always signs that you're using one of those two products. So to have it actually be paint that goes on, and most of the time, no, not most of the time, depending on how you apply it, you can get it, oh my goodness. I might have to put her in her kennel. I am so sorry. She is not a barker, so I don't know what she's barking at. I'm gonna throw her in her kennel real fast so that we don't have to listen to her bark the whole time. Give me 1 second. Hey, stop. Why are you barking? Oh, that's the neighbor. Come on. Kennel. Layla, kennel. I know. It's okay. I apologize for that. She saw my neighbor pull into our driveway and turn around. So when you're applying this onto your piece, depending on whether you're applying it into a clear coat or whether you're applying it into a paint finish, if you're applying it into a paint finish, it's going to most likely be a little bit more distressed looking, and you can play into that. It does take a little bit of a learning curve the first time that you try one of these, so I do recommend, if you get a paint inlay, start with the piece, the design, the sheet, whatever it is that you like the least and you plan on not using for your project, or not the main part of your project, and just try a little section of it on like a little test board and try applying it with paint, try applying it with a clear coat, and see how it works best for you. The good news is, if you do this and you lay it into your piece and then when you pull it back, your design is still on the paper, so it didn't actually bind with whatever you have, the paint or the clear coat on your piece. If it doesn't bind with that, you didn't just ruin it. You have still your sheet that you can work with again. So that is the good news, that even if you do it wrong initially, you really don't lose your design. Unless you have smeared it all over and then you pull it back and it's just all smeared. That's kind of like the main issue that you would probably face with this, is you just want to make sure that when you're applying it and rubbing it in, you're not smearing your paper all over, or like letting it move too much, because that can activate the pigments in the paint and it can blur it and get it all kind of like messy looking. So, all right, enough talking. Let me see here. So again, this is just gonna be a peekaboo layer in my finish, so I'm not wanting to use this whole sheet. I'm just gonna kind of cut out some sections, I guess, and we'll go from there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna blur out some of the edges, so if some of these rose and leaf designs are cut down the middle, that's all right, because we're going to end up adding paint later on. Oh my gosh, layering paint later on to blur that out. I realized that I don't see any comments on here, and I am not used to going live on YouTube. I think I've been live on YouTube maybe twice before, and it was years ago. So I am a little bit new to this. Please bear with me. I typically have gone live on Meta's platforms, and with the recent change of the videos, not being allowed to stay on the platform longer than 30 days, that has led me to pick up here on YouTube again and start doing my live videos over here. That way I can always reference back to them if need be. And things over here might change as well eventually, you never know. But it gives me a little bit more time, at least, of where I can store my videos and have them to reference back for anybody who is wanting to see how I did a certain finish, if it's something that I did live or something that I have pre-recorded and then put up a actual fully edited video for. Let me see. I'm gonna check. Because I don't think, oh, there we go. I just swipe it to the side. Oh, this is so cool. Hey, Sherry. Okay, so all I'm seeing is Sherry's here. Thank you, Sherry, for being here. But they just pop up right on the center of my screen, which is very convenient, and then they fade out. So I'll have to check in here and there and see, make sure I'm not missing if there's like any questions. I think I'm gonna cut this actually up even more. I want small little sections. So I've done a buffet previously with a very similar method to this, and it was an extremely popular finish. It was one of my highest sold pieces of furniture, and it was just breathtaking and very unique. So I'm doing something similar color-wise with the blues and the pinks, but this is very much more toned down, more muted, more elegant, and that one was a little bit more brighter, vibrant, a little bit more lively, I feel like. But I used paint inlays for that one as well to kind of be a little peekaboo here and there in my finish. to give it some more depth and to play more into that feel of I want it to be like a foggy morning that you're walking through the garden and you can see through the fog some of those faded flowers in the distance. It's very ethereal feeling. All right, there we go. So I have many smaller pieces here. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect, but it gives me lots to work with. Plenty for at least this one side. And this is all I've used of that one sheet. So I would say it's maybe just a little bit more than half of one sheet. And in this paint inlay, you get 2 full sheets of these roses. Can you see my surface here? Ooh, there we go. Hey Melissa, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So now that I have all of these laid out here, I'm going to use just water in a mister bottle, and let me move that out of the way so that doesn't get spritzed. I want to make sure, this is a mistake I've made before. It actually is a very easy to make mistake, but you want to make sure that the side with the paint is facing up. That's what you're wetting, not the side with the grids on the back. So you do want to make sure everything is facing upward because we are pre-wetting the paint, and this is going to help it to transfer onto the piece. And I get them pretty decently damp. Next, I'm going to be taking my clear coat, and I am taking, oh, you know what? Well, no, it's all right. I'll use this because there's just a little bit left. This is the Paint Couture Extreme Guard Flat, and I find that this works really, really wonderfully for this method, and it dries to a very, very flat finish, which is what I want because I'm not done working on this chalky finish just yet. And so as I'm working between layers, I don't want there to be like a shiny layer in between that looks super out of place. So I'm gonna go ahead and use some of this. Just take a clean brush and, oh, there's a bristle. You see, get a good amount here. And I am going to apply this on the side, and I'm doing it I'm using a pretty decent amount of clear coat. I don't want just a super thin layer. I want plenty to work with to where I can lay my design in to this. All right, then I have my heat going in here. The vent up there is kicking out heat right now, and so I'm going to also mist this. Again, I don't want it to start drying out. I want it to be nice and damp as I apply my design. So now I'm gonna start taking my design. I'll adjust the camera in just a moment. Let's see here, we're gonna start from the bottom. Oop. You have just a tiny bit of time at the beginning to kind of move it, but you just don't want to move it around too much. So just like that, I'm laying that paint side down. Grab another piece here. This one is a perfect piece, I feel like, to cascade along to the front. How do I want this one? I think possibly like so. A couple more pieces. So now I have those just placed very randomly, cascaded across my piece here. And then I am going to take my brush. I'm not sure if you can see, there's a little drip coming down right here. So I want to clean that up. And then I'm actually going to also open this up and should have, take this paper towel. I'm just going to clean up any excess of the clear coat that was wanting to drip down off the bottom. Now this is really, really wet. So if I were to like bump this, it will move because I sprayed lots of water on my inlay, and then I sprayed lots of water over that decently thick coat that I brushed on of the clear coat. So what I want to do is hold with one finger in place and then just make sure that I'm brushing out with my other finger any air bubbles, and also just putting a little bit of pressure onto it to make sure that it is good on all contact points of the paper with my piece. That looks pretty good. So now what you can do is you can just let this sit and dry, like air dry. I am gonna actually speed it up with, got a little clear coat in there. I wanna make sure to remove that so it doesn't glue my drawer in place. That wouldn't be good. I also see it right here. Don't want a big glob of clear coat there. So just clean up the edges. So you can let it just air dry at this point if you would like, but because I'm doing a video and kind of showing you how this is, how it works and how it can be very simple to use, I'm gonna use my where is it? My heat tool to dry it quicker. I want to make sure that this is turned down in heat. I want it nice and low. You can also use a hair dryer if you don't have one of these. And this is just gonna speed up the process to where I can pull these back quicker for you guys. So bear with me, it is gonna be a couple minutes of having to listen to this. So if you wanna take a break, go to the bathroom, go get some water or something, and come back, feel free to do that. And I will show you how easy this is. All right. Sorry about the drying. So when it begins to dry, and some of these are a bit more dry than others, like up here, this one is pretty dry. This area is pretty dry. There are some darker spots where it's still pretty wet. Down here is still pretty damp. This area is pretty damp. So I've done this on purpose where I'm gonna leave a couple of these pretty damp because they may not release properly, and that's okay. So I wanna show you both ways of like how it should look if everything goes correctly, and then how there may be some issues that arise, but it's not a huge deal. So now that it is very faded looking as it's dried, I'm gonna go through and you'll see as I mist it, it gets nice and dark again. So I want to re-mist the surface, and I just kind of run my hands over it. So what this is going to do is it's going to help it to lift off and release, especially since I used a clear coat and I sped up the drying process. It can cause the paper to want to rip when you pull it back because those edges have really adhered into that clear coat. Something, by the way, that I do not recommend, I tried it once and it did not go well, was I've tried this with Mod Podge. So Mod Podge is a product that I would not use the paint inlays with because it does actually glue it onto your piece. All right, so we're gonna start with this here. And when I peel this back, you'll see that it left the design behind. And this is what my paper looks like. Now with the paint inlays, you can typically get 2, sometimes even 3 uses with these when you're using it with paint. So paint is a lot different than using it with clear coat. With clear coat, I can try to use this again. I might get just the tiny faintest pigment out of my second use, but for the most part, using it with a clear coat, it's like a one-time use. So keep that in mind if you have like a bigger project that you're wanting to apply these on and you want to really maximize your uses per piece or per sheet. You can lay it directly into your paint, and you would do it the same way that I did the clear coat, but instead of clear coat, it's paint. But as you can see, I like to do my blended finishes, and then I typically work these into like the middle layers in between my projects, and so I don't always use it with paint. So pull that one right off from the corner. If you do feel like it's tugging at all, like the paper's like really stuck on your piece, just add a little bit more water, rub it in, and then try to peel it back, and that should help it to release better. But you can see all of these are releasing pretty perfectly. Like there's a tiny bit of, I'm not even sure if you can tell, just the tiniest bit of what almost looks like chipping in the painted finish of the design. And that is just from the texture that's naturally on this because I did a cloudy blend where I was bouncing a dry brush around to blend my colors. It gave it a little bit of texture from that paint. And so what that is doing is the paint inlay is not fully sitting in all of those little textured areas. So pretty. So that flower, I still have a little bit of the pigment here on my sheet. I think that one was one of the ones that was partially damp. I can't remember. These are actually all coming off like flawlessly, so let's see, was this one the damp one? Okay, there we go, down at the bottom. So what I find is the best way to see how much pigment is left on your paint inlay, meaning can you get another use of it, is I'll hold it up to the light and I look and see. I'm gonna see if it'll work, if you guys can see it. So if I hold this up to the light, you can really see those darker areas where the pigment is. And so down in the leaves down here, a lot of that didn't transfer. There's a little bit of the red that didn't transfer. Oops. And then up at the top, there's a little bit in the leaves right there that didn't transfer, a little bit in the flower that didn't transfer. So that gives you a good idea, other than obviously looking at what you've pulled up and if the design transferred perfectly. So down here was the one that is still very much damp, and it is not perfectly applied. There's lots of missing areas to the leaves. So it looks like it's like naturally worn. Like if you think of an old hand painted piece that's naturally worn with age, that's what you get, is this textured look. And I love, love, love this. I actually prefer it versus having everything apply perfectly, but I wanted to show you two different scenarios where if everything kind of pulls back. Oh, you hear that? So it's it's stuck here a little bit too much and the paper is wanting to tear. So we're just gonna give that another spritz with some water to help release that edge right there. There we go. Got one more piece down here. That one's also wanting to kind of tear, so we're gonna rub those edges. And sometimes if you let it sit for a minute as well, that's gonna help that water to absorb in and help it to lift. There we go. All right, and that one actually went on perfect. I thought that one was a little bit more damp. I thought I didn't let it dry all the way. So really just kind of down at the bottom on a couple of these is where it really, it was most damp, obviously, as I applied my clear coat and then I spritzed it and let that water run down. I'm gonna wipe the bottom of this as well because there is some excess clear coat. Wipe that. So this one that, where is it? Which one was it? Oh, here we go. So this one here that has a lot of the leaves from the bottom that I still have a lot of pigment left on here, I could just add some more clear coat somewhere and apply that and have more of this faint look. So I can reuse those areas. Or if I wanted to correct this, I can just dry this area, add a little bit more clear coat. Now when you go in to brush on your clear coat over your paint inlay, you do have to be careful because the paint used for this does reactivate with water very easily. So there's a couple of ways that you could fix this look if you weren't pleased with like the worn look, you wanted it to be a little bit more perfected. So what you could do is you could take a little bit of water and just a small little artist brush, and you can activate the paint in that area and kind of paint it in yourself, or you can even steal it off of the inlay here that you still have some paint from. You can use some water and a small artist brush and just paint in those areas. You can brush on a clear coat and let that dry. You just want to really do one pass, and you want to make sure that it's already dry before you go over it because it will smear it. let that dry, and then you can come in with just a tiny bit more clear coat in that area and try to match it up and relay it perfectly in that spot. But honestly, I like the worn look, and I'm going to be fading this out anyways in my finish, and so it's not an issue at all. That's why I cut up pieces, and it has these sharper edges that don't make sense looking at it right now. It looks very pieced together, and that is just going to be what's kind of fading through as my background florals in this piece. So let me know, was that helpful? I'm going to check to see if there's any questions. How did I do that? There we go. My sister is watching on the big screen. Oh my goodness. You can probably see my nose hairs. Oh, oops. There we go. So I'm going to go over the colors real fast that I used for the paint on this, because I'm sure that there may be somebody on the replay who is wondering, and I did post on my stories yesterday, but I think those have since then disappeared, and that was on Facebook and Instagram. So totally different platform. So starting from the top, the darkest pink that I used up here is, it's actually really very soft vintage pink, and all of these paints are Pure Eco chalk finish, and this is an Australian paint company. They are eco-friendly, safe to use indoors. I love it. They're one of the few paints that don't give me a headache. I get migraines really bad from odors and products in a lot of the paint companies out there, and so there are a few that I'm able to use since I'm painting indoors, and this is one of them. It's my go-to. As you can see, it blends out beautifully, which I love. It still gives you that chalky, kind of a little bit porous type of a finish, but you can use water and water it down to get a super smooth finish. They also have an all-in-one style, which is going to be their silk finish, but I always tend to lean towards the chalk finish because I like the more artistic, blendy, layered, textured types of finishes. So this color is Chiffon at the very top, and then I blended that into blush, which is just very slightly lighter, and it's a little bit warmer. So Chiffon into blush, and then from blush I went into Seashell, which is a kind of a creamy off-white. It has like a sandy base to it. It's not super yellow. It's more of like a sandy tone. And then from Seashell into Morning, which is the very light blue that you can kind of see in this region right here. So that is Morning. And then from Morning into Reef, which is a really beautiful blue. It's like a stormy blue. It's blue, a little hint of green in there, but a very muted, not quite a duck egg blue, I wouldn't consider it, but it's definitely that muted, dusty type of a blue. So those are the 5 colors that I used. I was only gonna do 4 initially, and then I wanted that a little bit darker up at the top. It wasn't a huge difference, but it did help to balance it a little bit more in my contrast here. So those are the colors that I'm using for my base, and as I go in and begin to layer some more over these florals that I'm adding, I'm going to do it on the other side as well. I will layer a little bit of probably Seashell and kind of make those areas look brighter, as if the sun is trying to shine through the fog from behind and you're seeing those flowers. So sun, flowers in the fog, and then you're over there, so you're seeing them shining through the fog, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to hand paint florals in here, and those are going to be very much in, I would say, kind of like this color range, but lighter. There's going to be some creamy tones, some I would say lighter pinks, maybe not this dark, and there's gonna be some of the blue tones. There's gonna be a really earthy green, probably pretty similar to this color, because I feel like that color palette does fit this really well. It also matches some of those blue, pale green tones in the rose inlay. So all of that I'm just gonna freehand and paint so it looks like vines of flowers growing up. And I'm excited, but it also is a very long process hand painting all of that. Uh-oh, I disappeared for a moment. I don't know if that disappeared for you guys. I was trying to tap to get the comments back. I still love the chiffon color. They do look so great together, don't they? And the paint inlay, that just fit in really well. I do have a little bit more. I have another sheet of the I can't think of the one that I used on that buffet. It was a rose, but they were very much brighter tones, like a bright pop of pink and a bright red and like a bright chartreuse green. I can't think of what that inlay's name is. I think it's rose something, but I could be wrong. So I do have a sheet left over from that I was trying to hold up here to see if it was something that I could work into this finish, but it was just too bold and too bright for this muted look. So this inlay ended up being perfect to bring in some of those faded flower patterns that can mix in, and then it also helps with when I go in to hand paint, I'm not having to fill so much space because some of this is going to be peeking through from behind and look like layers from behind. So it's going to really help with that as well. Do you guys have any questions for me at all? I feel like I'm making good time. 48 minutes is not too bad. I've definitely been known to do like 2-hour lives on my Facebook, and I'm trying to make those a little bit shorter here on YouTube because I think having things a little bit shorter might be more helpful. But this is basically where I'm going to be directing everyone from my Facebook now to be able to come and see me paint live, learn the techniques that I'm doing or how to use these products that I'm using. I'm going to be doing, I think, most of that, if not all of it, basically over here, as well as my pre-recorded videos that are edited. Those are much faster, straight to the point if you're not wanting to learn in like an in-person type of setting, then those might be better for you because it's a lot faster and you can speed it up. I think on the replay you may be able to speed up these videos as well and put it to like 2 times speed. So that's something as well to keep in mind. But I would love your feedback. If there was anything that I can change, of course, be kind. Because I'm still very new here. This is like my 3rd live ever that I've done, and the last 2 were years and years and years ago. So it's gonna take me a little bit to get used to going live over here. And if you have any feedback for me that is helpful, I would love that. And if you are excited and you want to try paint inlays, let me know. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help. But you guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys later. All right, bye.